So here we have a 1994 Buick Roadmaster. The rear gate only opens as a door. It's supposed to also open as a tailgate. See right here, that doesn't work. Now I already have all these trim pieces taken off just for better access, and I'll show you how to do that. And I will also show you how to repair this issue, assuming that you have the same problem I do. So first you want to open your rear gate. And actually I already took all of this apart earlier and just loosely put it back together to show you guys the order of operations. But first you want to take these latches off. These are just held in place with a pair of screws. So first you take those off. And then this big trim piece, or this big upholstery piece, comes off, and it's held on by a row of screws along this top edge. And there's a few on the sides as well. And then you just want to kind of pop it off. And you're going to break a few little plastic parts when you do this, but that's okay because these are all readily available at auto parts stores. You're basically just going to be breaking these like temporary plastic rivets. Well, I guess they're not temporary, but they're very cheap to replace. So just rip it off, don't worry about it. You're also going to want to remove this panel over here, which again, I did earlier. I also recommend that you remove this trim piece over here just to give you a little bit of extra visibility through these two holes. Okay, so first, take a look down in there. It's gonna be tough. I'm gonna highlight this part, and that is the part that you have to lift up in order to open this as a tailgate. And this part is also what is preventing the tailgate from opening in that mode. I don't have three hands, so I can't actually show you, but you can just take my word for it. See that part? You can either use a screwdriver, or if you're really dexterous, you can use your finger to kind of lift it up to open the tailgate. Well, it's really more like pushing it to the side, I guess. So here it is, pushed to the side, and I'm hoping I can adequately show that. Again, I'm going to highlight that in the video editor so you can see it better. It was extremely difficult to do this. But anyway, now that that little bit has been moved to the side, we should be able to open this as a tailgate. And there it is. Now I suspect that this is a lubrication issue. Basically, there's a lockout mechanism in here that prevents you from opening the tailgate mechanism while this door is opened sideways as a door. Because while this is open sideways as a door, you don't want this hinge to disconnect. Otherwise, you might end up with sort of this weird floppy situation where you're pivoting only on this one point. And that would be bad. And vice versa, there is a lockout here which prevents me from opening in door mode right now, because that would disconnect this. And that, again, would also be bad and leave you with a condition where you're only pivoting on this one point. So, I believe this lockout mechanism is just not properly lubricated, and it stays in sort of a lockout mode even when the door is fully shut. So I'm going to try to spray some lube in there, and I'll show you where in a second. Right now, the tailgate is open as a tailgate.
Now, there's a decent amount of stuff going on here. Basically, with this open as a tailgate, if I then try to open it as a door, you can see that that action is blocked by this mechanism over here. If I activate that tailgate opener, you can see right there, the mechanism does work, but the tailgate's already open, so it's not really doing anything new. this piece of metal right here. So this piece of metal right here is connected all the way up here. I can't actually point to it correctly, but this piece of metal is essentially that lockout part that we were messing with earlier to get this tailgate open. And you can see that there's a rod here which leads down to the lock or the hinge at the bottom of the door. Hold on, let me give you a little perspective here so you know what I'm talking about. So there's the hinge right there. You can see that rod is leading to it. So there's a bunch of pivot points attached to this thing, and I'm just going to oil up every single one with some silicone lubricant and see if that fixes the problem. I'm not 100% sure on how this mechanism works, but I suspect that that rod acts in some kind of lockout capacity.
I am using this WD-40 silicone lubricant.
Now, this was pretty messy. I got basically every pivot point I could. And now I'm going to wait a little bit for this stuff to dry, because if I flip this tailgate up, then I might get some drippage onto these electrical components, or this servo over here, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna wait for this to dry before I flip this tailgate up.
And I also got the outside of these hinges and a little bit on the inside of this bottom one as well. So basically I was just liberally spraying into any pivot point I could see. Let's try it out. So we have regular door mode, and hopefully, nope, doesn't work. Oh, there we go. So I guess it works sometimes. Interesting. Maybe you just need to shut it firmly. Seems to be the case. Well, I suppose that's better than nothing. If I come up with something better, I'll let you know.